How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over something a little bit different, and that is a budget Kaisa deck for Riftbound. I know people have been having issues getting cards or sourcing cards for this game, and the cards for this game have been skyrocketing in price because of that, so they've been a little bit harder to find. Myself personally, with the cards that I was able to get, I was just selling off anything that was of value because I expect everything to start going down in price, so I'm just opening up cards and I pretty much just sell everything I can, and I don't really want to hold on to anything while it's, in my mind, overpriced. So I found a budget alternative to run that I still feel fits my playstyle, which is typically I'm going to be playing something fairly aggressive or maybe mid-range at most. I want to get the games done quickly. I got ADHD. I'm not trying to play a really long control match, so this is the build I've been running. I've been running it to great success. I am been undefeated in basically every Nexus Nights event that I've played. I haven't even lost a game yet with this in anything competitive. I lost like a single game with it against a coworker who was like playing Yasuo, and we were just kind of messing around. So there were some mistakes made there that realistically probably cost me the game there as well. So I wanted to go over this for people. The overall breakdown of the build comes out to about $140 US, which for a Kaisa deck is extremely inexpensive, given that the typical list for this is running $700, $800 maybe. Let's see. What is the most recent deck we can find here? I think there was the... this is from a week ago. This one's what, $550 or so, and I don't even think this is the most expensive version, but you can see here about $550, so we're looking at $140 instead. Not too bad. Let's kind of jump into it. Kind of what we have here, and the main differences of what you're going to see. The battlefields are pretty much going to be a little bit different. The main different one here is Tarragon's Peak, just because when you conquer here, ready to runes at the end of the turn. We don't run the battlefield, the Dreaming Tree here, because we don't have as many cards targeting our creatures for our friendly units with spells. We are not playing Retreat at all. So because of that, that card gets less value versus the extra removal suite that we run with the smoke screens and other things like that. The Arena's Greatest and Reaver's Row we have in there. For the most part, Reaver's Row ends up being kind of a headliner for you, and then Tarragon's Peak as well. Arena's Greatest is there, but I haven't had to use it yet. It's my kind of game 3 battlefield if I'm going to run anything. So that's kind of where it ends up coming down to. So for the deck itself, we are running just the single Kaisa Survivor here. She's the bulk of the cost of the deck. She's like $70, so half the cost of the deck is the single card right here. And then the other cards kind of adding up the rest of the cost here is Darius. There's 3 Darius and the 3 Falling Stars. And everything else is just kind of like $1 or less. So the big thing you'll notice here, the retreats have been cut. For me, basically, personally, I found that with this specific version of the deck, you have less high value targets for your retreats because you don't have Thousand Tail Watchers, and you're not playing 3 Kaisas. You have less targets that are high value for retreat. Because of that, I just cut them and just added either more removal or just more 2-drops basically for it, or just more value kind of creatures here. And then with that cut, again, it just left us some more room for some extra stuff. The big ones here are you are running 3x Singularity instead of your Acathian Rain. To be fair, this honestly gets the job done for most of what we need. This version of the build, because the curve is a bit lower than the other versions that you normally see, this is kind of like a finisher here to basically close out games, or Darius and Vayne are just closing out games because of their cost and their ability to just close out a game with an accelerated creature. The Vaynes themselves have been really, really solid because she's coming out on 4. She's taking the slot of a Thousand Tail Watcher, which is normally an 8-drop in order to have Accelerate. So there are turns where you're playing 1 or 2 Veins in order to accelerate and basically get a quick clear or a quick capture to basically close out a game. Because she is quite powerful, really inexpensive, and then if you are needing to play around some sort of removal suite or against the deck that has good power to recapture, you can always just bounce her right back to hand. So she really comes in handy to just kind of keep the board under control while you're kind of stalling and getting to the point where you're getting to where you can close out a game. Along with that, again, Darius is extremely strong, as most people know. If you haven't played the deck before, there is an important caveat with Darius is that when it says, when you play your second card of the turn, give me +2 this turn and ready me, that does include himself. So you can play some sort of spell or some sort of removal and then play Darius, and he will come out ready, and he will start ready. So you can kind of use that to maybe set people up or kind of trick people into some favorable combat for yourself. So do keep that in mind. If you are going to do it that way, just make sure you don't cast something else as your second spell first, or it will cause him to come into play tapped again. The other things are in regards to the sideboard. The sideboard itself is going to be more flexible depending on what you are seeing in your area, what decks you are playing against. There's not a case where the retreats are necessarily useless. Like, they do have value. You could put those back in over the Orb of Regret or over 1 or 2 of the Thermo Beams, depending on what you are seeing, or even over the Brynheers, depending again on what you are seeing around you. In the area that I'm playing in, I'm very frequently playing against things that are playing green, or playing against a lot of Annies that are going to have a lot of interaction on your turn, or want to have a lot of interaction on your turn. And Brynheer just helps ensure that you are able to close out a game and get that final push through on damage without having your opponent interact. This does stop all hidden cards. It does stop a lot of things, so you can really get a lot of value out of him or her. I'm not really sure. I'm not a League player. You can get a lot of value out of them in order to, again, just either close out a game or to take control. Thermo Beam is really, really good. It's pretty much only used in a few matchups, though. You pretty much, for now at least, after Spirit Forged, it's going to see a lot more play, and having all 3 of them will end up being a staple, most likely. But for now, it's just used against decks with Dazzling Aurora and against Darius with the Baited Hook. You pretty much don't bore them in for that. You can probably take this down to only 2 of these in your sideboard, and then either add a 3rd Orb of Regret or swap the Orbs of Regret over to Retreats, depending on what you're running into. Orb of Regret is really good in matchups where you're seeing a lot of equally sized creatures, because what it does do is it gets around. A lot of the times you are swinging a 2-might into a 2-might, things like that in a lot of different matchups. So when you're playing against a lot of the greens, or again against Darius, any of the things with just equal little 2-drops, you are able to board out the Stupefies in order for the Orb of Regrets and just get kind of a removal every turn that kind of adds up and just adds a little bit more value than what you'd normally get out of just either a single Stupefy or having Hextech Rays, for example, that you're constantly having to utilize or use on 2-drops or like 2-power creatures that just to clear them out of the way, when you can have kind of infinite value on a stick. So something to keep in mind. For the most part on the sideboarding that ends up happening, you either end up boarding out the Stupefies or you board out the Singularities, depending on if it's a deck that is really low to the ground and it's really aggressive, then you end up boarding out Singularity. Or if it's something where Stupefy is not really getting much value, then that typically will get boarded out in order to make room for, again, the Orb of Regrets or for the Brynheers or the Thermo Beams. There's a lot of a lot of matchups where Stupefy doesn't really do anything, like say you're playing against Victor or something. Stupefy is rarely getting its value, so you do end up boarding those out in order to get the other stuff in there. So these are just kind of proof of concept here. Again, I mean, you can't see matches itself. I can't actually show you the round scores, or I was hoping I could. But just over the last 3 that I played here, in the last week or so, you can see I'm not playing against, bad opponents either. Like, I'm having good tiebreakers here, and I still haven't dropped a game on the deck. So I know I will at some point. I still don't expect to lose matches anytime soon, just because the build has been working well for me. It does come out a lot faster than what people expect, so you catch a lot of people off guard with the lower curve kind of version. They're expecting you to kind of draw the game out a little bit and kind of play for a little bit more value and just kind of get that early card advantage and kind of play it more like a mid-range deck, leaning on either Time Warp or a Cathian Rain to close out the game. But instead, you just keep playing aggressive creatures and you don't stop the scoring. So yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you have any other build ideas for things you think may change the build for Spirit Forge, I'd like to hear it. And other than that, see you in the next one.